Okay.
All right, welcome back, friends. So Sarah and I, she did bring up, and we'll get to it. What she was asking is this concept, a definition of love, and we're gonna get to there. So to wrap up, covenant and oath, a sacrament versus a promise. It is something being asked of the human person that is objectively speaking beyond their human endeavor, and God imparts the help necessary. That's why we have so you swear an oath as opposed to, and you perjured if you don't do that. So antonyms. So part of definitions, look at the antonyms, and from a Catholic definition of marriage, same sex cannot be marriage because it's between a man and a woman. Polygamy, between a man and multiple wives, is not a marriage. The Second Catechism talked about the sin, how it stained the mystery of marriage through the history of salvation, arising from sin. But then again, it's renewal in the Lord. So polygamy is not a Catholic marriage. Cohabitation is not a Catholic marriage. So
Not even of long duration.
not even of long duration. So that's antonyms.
Right.
Baltimore Catechism 1028. So what are its effects? So that Sarah graciously and mentioned about what are its bonum, what are the goods. Okay. So, and she's right. It's tight and right. The effects of the sacrament of matrimony are: 1, to sanctify the love of husband and wife; 2, to give them grace to bear with each other's weaknesses; and 3, to enable them to bring up their children in the fear and love of God. Baltimore Catechism, paragraph 1029. What do we mean by bearing with each other's weaknesses? And that's kind of what got us into want to talk about marriage, is because what's holy obedience?
Right.
Another way of stating is bearing with each other's weaknesses. By bearing with each other's weaknesses, we mean that the husband and wife must be patient with each other's faults, bad habits, or dispositions, pardon them easily, and aid each other in overcoming them. That's kind of tight right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, there's a clarity there that I think is lacking in the modern texts. I mean, that is, I like the fact that there is an outward recognition that there is going to be conflict, but that the marriage sacrament actually provides, in advance of those conflicts, the grace that is already necessary.
They do, where you become patient,
right?
Pardon them. And so some of how that is going to work itself out, we'll look in the saints in next month's show, because how that bearing of weaknesses, or that obedience to the husband, changes. It'll change from how Monica and approaches Patricius, to Thomas More and Jane Holt, and then we'll get to the Zélie and Louis Martins, and then Gianna Molla and Pietro. So there is this a changing of Moors, as it will, where Gianna Molla in 1960 would be different than what a Monica would do in the 300s.
Right. I mean, what I think is clearest about that, being able to bring to mind these these marriages, which are so disparate in terms of time, is a perfect recognition that the grace of the sacrament is sufficient to wherever marriage finds itself. And that's why you were saying at the beginning, is this beyond us? Well, it is beyond the human reckoning. The human person cannot confect a marriage that will be forgiving, all these things, free, fruitful, forsaking forever. A human person is not capable of doing that. And the further that the human person becomes from God, the less likely that will happen. And so when people complain about the fact that these things are going wrong for themselves, the only possible alternative, if you don't want to continue headlong into hedonism, is to turn back to the authentic teaching of the church and to the authentic grace that comes with the sacrament of someone, a husband and a wife who become lawfully married.
Yes.
Because you can see, I mean, you're going to be able to point to, like, these are 4 couples that you have randomly pulled out. I was going to say that these 4 lives are, the fact that we can point to them only demonstrates to us that they are extraordinary because they're saints, but the lives that they lived, their sanctity was discovered in the ordinary. And so if they are there, then so are myriads and myriads of others who do not have a name, but certainly lived the grace.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Question 1030, Baltimore Catechism. How are parents specially fitted to bring up their children in the fear and love of God? Parents are especially fitted to bringing up their children in the fear and love of God by 2 points. 1, by the special grace they receive to advise and direct their children and to warn them against evil. Sarah's been talking about that. And 2, by the experience they have acquired in passing through life from childhood to the position of parents. Children should therefore conscientiously seek and accept the direction of good parents. And Ted and I were reading through Proverbs right now, and I'm going to tell you, Proverbs is replete with this advice, or the contrary thereof, how, the foolish son is a scorn and an embarrassment and, a real burden to his parents, but the child who asks and seeks counsel is a joy and
Right.
a blessing.
Sorry, I guess no one's downstairs to answer that phone. So much for the fruitful part of my marriage. Now I get to hear the answer machine. Sorry.
All right. I can see we're going to be going into greater verbiage with the catechism, the modern catechism. Do we have any other thoughts before we jump off into their paragraphs?
No, I just think that is so clear, how succinct it is, and how it just shows again to me the essentialness of making sure that we are living within the truth of tradition, because it only takes 20 years. How you were just saying, I was actually talking to my kids the other day because there's a situation with another friend of mine who is struggling with their parents, and I was talking to them about how it is an unusual thing that a child has to have parents who oftentimes do not even come into their own awareness of the goodness of their own parents until they have had ample opportunity to mess up the second generation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true. So we that lived experience is to make up a large part of the wisdom that we have to hand on to that lesser generation or that lower generation. And yet, if each succeeding generation only is given stone for bread, we have so very little to pass on. So as parents, that is just one of the things that to do this cross, this side by side comparison of what was said and what is being said, I think is going to be now an essential component for parents of goodwill going forward, because we can't be certain that what we've been handed is good.
Correct. It's correct.
We have teachers right now and shepherds who will not correct wayward sheep. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere.
It is. That's right. And Yes, yes, that is absolutely true. All right, my friends, let's pick up with paragraph 1638 in the Catechism, the effects of the sacrament of marriage. So we're still looking at the bonum, the goods of marriage. Till then, fides, oratio.